you wanted the war. Now you wanna talk before you wanted the war. Now you wanna talk before you wanted the war. Now you wanna talk.
Alright, what's going on? Welcome to Ready to Ramble, the Boxing Addictz presented by BoxingAddiction.com. I'm the ghetto phenom, Ishmael H.
Mike D.
And Easy.
This weekend, Samuel Peter, the Nigerian Nightmare, the new Nigerian Nightmare, faces James Lights Out Toney. But now he fights a young lion, fearless, with vaunted knockout power. Does Toney make the distance? And what does he have to do to make the distance?
I think that, as you read throughout the boxing media, reports and comments, is that there are all these question marks over Toney.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's a big question mark over Sam Peter. We know what Toney's going to come to the ring.
Right.
We know his boxing skills. Those aren't going to change.
Right.
I think that the right Peter has to come into the fight, take the fight to Toney, wear him down, wear the old man down, and possibly take him out.
I think I probably agree with the rest of the media that you're talking about. I think the questions more are going to be around Toney and regarding his weight. With Sam Peter, he's not going to be a great boxer. I mean, hopefully he's improved his skills because he was very amateurish against Klitschko, but that's not going to be his forte. He's going to be a guy looking to land a big shot, most likely a big clubbing right hand. That's not going to change. With Toney, yeah, his skills are going to be the same, but his weight has been ballooning. He came in against Holyfield at, 217. Against Booker, he was more than that. Against Ruiz, he was about, 230, 233. His last fight against Rahman, 237. So his weight's going up, and as his weight's been going up, he's been looking more sloppy. He's been trying to do pot shots, losing his balance. And if you lose your balance against a guy like Sam Peter, that could be it. That's a wrap.
But if his weight has been so much of a factor, how come these guys haven't been able to exploit it yet? That's my thing. I might have to play devil's advocate here and probably pick sides. And if I was to do that, I'd probably have to side with my man Foss here. I think the question marks really are starting to fall back on Samuel Peter. We know Toney's going to be hard to find. We know he's going to be fighting inside in close quarters. We know he's not going to run. We know he's been the distance 100 times. But what does Samuel Peter do when he can't find Toney? What does Samuel Peter do when maybe he gets a little winded from missing some of those big looping right hands? What does he do when he tries to figure out Toney's style with the countering and the defensive angles? I mean, I think as of right now, the only thing that Samuel Peter can hope for is one of those big wild right hands. I would say that you would be right as far as breaking him down if he was that type of fighter. But he hasn't shown me that he knows how to box well enough to break somebody down.
No, I never said he would break him down. He's not that type of guy.
He doesn't seem skilled enough to put combinations to the body, work a stiff jab, the things that are needed to be done to break somebody down. So I think, especially with there being a little bit of bad blood and tension, that he, emotions probably take over. Maybe he does try to put James in the front row, like he said, and knock him out in 4. But when James, kind of wrecks that game plan, I don't see Samuel Peter having a plan B or a plan C, and I see him getting outboxed and taken to school in either decision or, this might sound crazy, but maybe impossible to stop late. Because granted he had his moments against Klitschko, but at that time Klitschko was still kind of a fragile fighter, and I think all of 2003 and 2004 showed you that maybe Klitschko's defense isn't the best, and he's not doesn't have the greatest chin, and maybe he's not the hardest fighter to find.
But
this is a whole different type of fighter.
But you're looking at, when you talk about Klitschko, you're talking about another fighter that comes with that thunder. And so I think if Peter was going to get knocked out, Klitschko would have been more likely to do it. Yeah, Toney's going to work his body, but
that's the point.
Peter withstood monster shots, and he was there. So he's going to keep coming, even if he's missing and tired at the end of the fight. Toney carrying all that extra weight's also going to be tired. I think Toney can easily outbox him. That's going to be my probable pick because a master technician 90% of the time is going to be the guy just with big power and nothing else.
Right.
But I don't see Toney knocking him out.
Yeah, I don't either. You know, of all the possible outcomes, I think that's on the bottom of my list. You know, in my opinion, is Toney by knockout. You know, we saw Peter take a hellacious shot from Klitschko. He was out on his feet, stumbling around the ring.
But one punch at a time, though.
Yeah.
These might be possibly, if depending on Toney's condition, they might be coming in bunches.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm still been looking at recent fights of Peter, but to the last of my knowledge, he wasn't the greatest defensive fighter. And the guys that he fought, he really didn't have to worry about too much of their offense. So Toney does have an offense. I could see maybe if after that fourth round, maybe things start swinging Toney's way. He gets confident, starts putting them together over an accumulation late round stoppage.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't that impressed with his performance against Rahman, and he hit Rahman a bunch of times throughout the whole fight.
Right, flush.
As hard as he could. Like, he wound up from, you know, right field and, you know, came across the top, hit him, and Rahman didn't move.
Exactly.
Didn't tire
Right.
from the punches.
And one thing about Peter that many people won't notice, even though he's slow and kind of cumbersome, when he's throwing counter punches, or he can get one punch off quick, or he can get maybe two punches off quick. After that, it's not going to be much. But if Toney goes in with one of those pot shots and connects but not solid, or misses, I think Peter, you know, has enough quickness where he can come with a left hook or come with one of those rights. And you never know. I haven't really seen Toney hurt, but
Right.
I've never seen Jeremy Williams out for 20 minutes in the middle of the ring either. So.
With his arms straight up.
Right. So you never know.
Okay, so you know, whatever our opinions might be, where does the winner go from this match? Whether or not it's Peter or Toney, what's the next move that needs to be made in order to clean up the heavyweight division?
I think they go, you know, one of two directions. You know, the Moskaev fight or the Klitschko fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think Toney wins a unanimous decision in this fight. So I got to think about where's Toney going to go from here. But, you know, I don't know. I don't see him doing really well against Klitschko.
Yeah, I think that was all wrong.
Moskaev, you know, there's more of a chance there.
Lajakovic,
Right.
how do you think he fares matches up with him?
No, I think isn't Lajakovic
Shannon Briggs,
Shannon Briggs?
Yeah.
Didn't they sign for that fight?
or it's getting put together.
Right.
Yeah, depends on who wins.
Right.
I think if Peter manages to pull it out, he's going to want to go right back at Klitschko. And
Right.
I don't think that's a bad fight for him. He was able to knock him down. He ate a lot of fire, so maybe he'll be able to change some things. If Toney wins, then yeah, one of the other champions, probably Moskaev, or maybe even, you know, the giant
Valuev.
Nikolai Valuev.
I think that fight is totally wrong for him.
For Toney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5'9" versus, was it 7'1"?
Yeah, but I think when you're looking at either Valuev or Klitschko is more polished. Klitschko is stronger, so I'd rather see him in there against Valuev, and I'm high on Valuev, but I'd rather see Toney in there against Valuev than Klitschko if I'm a Toney handler.
Yeah, I think either one of those fights, you finally see Toney get knocked out. I just can't see him going to distance with either one of those
Yeah,
guys.
either
I
way.
think the natural height and strength, I think, just finally can catch up with him. I think it'd be too much. Because those guys, like you said, Valuev, he does have basic boxing skills down pat, and Klitschko is pretty good established boxer himself. I think those are disastrous matchups for him.
As Peter could be as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
All right, everybody. For our final picks and predictions, be sure to tune in to boxingaddiction.com. Predictions should be up by Friday morning, and we'll be sure to give you an in-depth opinion on who we think will win the fight and why.
Yeah, and also check out the updated pound for pound list that we got on there. Also, you can catch us on YouTube, Boxing Addictz, or MySpace as Boxing Addiction.
Till the next episode. Peace.